is Dave coming at you from DaveBlairMusic.com, and today what we're going to do is having some fun with compressor pedals. I'm going to have a little compressor shootout, little battle here. Three really cool, well-known compressor pedals. We have a Maxon. It's called CP9 Pro Plus. I've used all of these at live at gigs, and I have my own personal opinions, but let's play them and hear them, and I'll make my comments. An Ego compressor, which is by Wampler, and the famed Cali 76 by Origin Effects. Johnny Highland, one of his demos, raves about that, and that's the one he uses, and that's one of the demos that made me kind of interested in that one. Three different ones, but they all very cool in their own right. So I'm going to give you my basic tone. It's a 2-rock on a clean channel. I'm using a Strat. This was made by Thurland J, Urban Rocker. Thurland James, if you want one. This is custom made, and it's got a really cool Strat type of sound. And I wanted to use a Strat type of guitar for compressor demo, because it kind of has that snappy dynamic range that looks cool in funk and type of thing. Things that you might do with the compressor. So I'm not going to go too much into what a compressor does. There's plenty of videos on that. Basically, it kind of, just at a quick high level, it limits your dynamic range. But that's an oversimplification, because it doesn't just make the louds quieter. It adds a certain vibe to it. It does a lot of things. But that's a whole nother video. I won't talk about that another day, because this is enough to keep you busy. So here's kind of a basic sound. Switch the pickups. So we got the near neck position. Got your second position, a little brighter. Middle position. I'm not going to go to every position just to get an idea. So let's try the Maxon. I'm not going to try every setting, but most of these are fairly aggressive settings, but that are still usable, just so you get a good feel of what it does. Let's try the Ego. Try Cali 76. Flip around a little bit, try a couple things. Do maybe some country type of thing. Back to the Ego. Cali 76. A couple of things to note is that one thing cool about the Ego and the Cali 76 is that they have a dry control. So you could dial in, let's say I really like that sound, but it's a little too aggressive. You could make it more dry, blend in where it's like 75% wet, 25% dry. Make sure we're recording. Put it mostly dry. Or I could put it mostly wet. Now it's really smushed. Somewhere in the middle. I mean, depending on what you're trying to do. And let's give you an example of that with the Wampler. both of these, the dial is the opposite direction than, from the other one. That one is totally wet. One is clockwise. Dry. It's basically as if the pedal was off. It's the same. So. Whereas the Maxon, you don't have that option. So that's, I think that wet dry is a deal breaker for me. I think it's just an amazing feature because you could have it on all night and say, hey, I'm doing a rock song. I just want a little bit of compression, and just quick reach down and just make it more dry. And then if you're doing a country tune or whatever, you want to smash it. One dial, one button. You don't have to tweak your threshold and attack and everything. That's the Maxon. The thing about the Maxon, I think it imparts kind of its own sound live. Certain things like it wasn't as flexible. Like I couldn't leave on it for all things, maybe because of the wet dry thing, and also it imparts kind of its own sound. Whereas the other two are a little more transparent tonally. I think the Ego is most transparent, just from my personal use. I don't know what you're hearing, but it's pretty bright. It doesn't really take away any top end. It still stays snappy. A lot of compressors will kind of knock off your top end a little bit. These are aggressive settings. Now the thing about the Origin, I don't think it's as transparent. Now I have a really aggressive setting on the Origin, but it's still kind of a natural sound. It gives it's based off an 1176, which is an expensive, top of the line studio compressor, and it imparts its own kind of sound, but it's really cool sound. It's just like warm blankety sound, but it still has the top end, so it's kind of more sophisticated sound to my ear. Really hi-fi. You can't really make it sound bad. And the weird thing, it's one of those things where it's like it doesn't seem like it's on until you shut it off, and it's like, whoa. You might think it's humming, it's buzzing a little more, but I think that's just because I think I have the most aggressive setting on this one. Or it could be just something where this cable is grouted. So I don't think it's louder or hummier than the other ones. That's just an anomaly of this particular day, the way I have it set up. And I think depending on which, this is a Strat that gets some interference down here. But Cali 76 is more sophisticated sound. Now price-wise, I don't know the exact price, but I know the Cali 76 right now goes new for like $379. You could get them on sale or whatever for the lower 300s. Wampler goes for a little over 200. Again, on eBay probably $150. Maxon is in the same ballpark, I think, low 200s. One thing that's really cool that I don't have here, but just came out recently, is the Wampler, a mini version of this, which is about half the size. From my understanding, I think it's the same compressor sound-wise, but you don't have, it has switches instead of knobs for I think it's tone and attack. So if you don't need to really, really dial in, it's a great option. It's something that I would seriously consider because it's smaller. It's something you could just throw on your board. Doesn't take up a lot of space. It's almost the same price. It's maybe $20 cheaper. But if you want something, it's a great option for some. You want a compressor just at the front of your chain and keep it simple. That's a good option as well. I would say my personal favorite is the Cali 76. Of course, it's almost twice as much money. It's just really cool. But do you really need it? If unless you're a guy that's really doing, compression is like a big part of your sound, like a Johnny Highland, where its compression is, you're doing country and a lot of finger picking. Get the best per compressor you can get, and there's a lot of good ones out there. Keeley, Carl Martin, there's tons of them. This is what I have in front of me right now. But I'd say the Ego, bang for your buck. Has that blend control on it. It sounds great. I would get probably the Mini. It's just a good workhorse, bang for your buck, transparent. good sound, and the Maxon has a great sound too. Which is for me, playing them live, I don't know, it was affecting my sound too much, and I don't have the blend control, so sometimes it would squish things too much, and I'd be messing with it. Whereas with these, with the blend, I could just kind of get an aggressive compressor sound and pull the blend and tweak it a little bit, and I could just leave it on all night in a way it has that compression sound all night, but you never, you don't lose your natural sound, or it doesn't squash you too much on rock tunes and stuff like that, where you want to keep a little more dynamics. Because in rock tunes, you have a gain pedal anyway, which is limiting your dynamics. So you still want to have that, be able to hit something hard and have it pop out a little bit. And when you have that wet-dry control, you could do that, get the best of both worlds. And it just, but the Origin is just so tweakable. It's like a pro level, like something like one of these compressors back here. It does, you could really dial in it to do almost anything you want, because it's got, the control, it's got an in and out, it's got the blend, your attack, your threshold, your ratio. It's a real compressor. Wampler, more. One thing about the Maxon, if you hit it really hard with like a low note, and it's a little bit of an aggressive setting, it could kind of squish it really fast, fart out a little bit. Whereas I never really had that issue. About the Cali also, it also has an in and an out, so you could push that harder. If you, let's say, if you have a single coil, with less heavy pickups, you could push it a little harder, and push the front end and almost get a little grit and distortion, because you're really pushing that, and you're getting the sound that a compressor is. Because a compressor isn't just for your dynamics; it imparts a certain quality and sound as well. And then you could adjust the separate output control. So it's definitely the most flexible, most controllable, and it's such high quality components that even at extreme settings, it's going to just sound smooth. The question is, do you want to spend $375 on a compressor pedal? If I was a bass player, in a second. If I was a country guitar player, in a second. For someone like me that does rock, funk, it's great for funk. Is it necessary? No, I could live with either one of these, although my preference would be the Ego personally. I think just the Maxon just doesn't have that blend control, although it has a really nice sound. I just do too many different styles, so that blend control really helps. I never have to worry about it just being too much for certain things and not enough for other ones. Ego does have a tone control, which none of the other ones have, which is a cool thing. So, you can't go wrong. They, as you could tell, they all sound really cool. Origin. Which is something about that just seems a little more sophisticated and like a radio record. Let me just throw in some distortion just so you can get used for doing like crunchy rock. But as you heard, it sounds fantastic on the clean stuff. But you can get gives you more sustain even on a rock sound. I mean, it's almost funny how different, how much bigger it is. Again, something about this Cali. Than the other ones, though. The setting, but it is mostly on the dry. It's a lot of dry mixed in. So, but basically, that Cali kind of makes it fatter and makes it a little more girth without it making it feel muddy. It really does enhance your sound in a cool way. So use your own ears. I mean, I'd say bang for. I mean, they're all cool. And if you really like the sound of any one of them specifically, go for it. Personally, the workhorse one, bang for the buck. The Ego is great, or the Ego Mini. But sound-wise, this Origin is just has something special. But you get what you pay for. And one other point is the Cali 76. Right now it's on 9 volts. You can run it from 9 to I think it's 18 volts. Check their website. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. I usually run it at around 15. I've heard people say the sweet spot is 12. This is 9. If you want a little more headroom, obviously you go to a higher voltage. But I want to give it apples to apples comparison voltage-wise. So that's another thing. If you up the voltage on this, it gives you just a whole nother world to work with as far as headroom, which is important on a compressor. So that's another point to make. Cali 76 is a little bit bigger. It takes a little bit more room on your board. And as you notice, this light is really cool because it changes color as you're using more compression. The Ego has no light, but you have to realign your ear, which sometimes is difficult live because you might not tell exactly how much if it's compressing. If you're standing next to a bass player or something or a drummer. And the Maxon has a light that just kind of it's a little red light and it gets a little brighter. So that's helpful because if you're trying to set it in the dark or in a loud club, that does make a difference because sometimes you can't hear and you want to at least get a setting where it's kind of going on your heaviest picking but not on your lightest picking. So you could use the light to kind of tweak that. Any comments? Leave comments. Subscribe because there's tons of videos. And I'm always putting out videos with tips and tricks and whatever gear reviews. So it's definitely always cool stuff. And I record it well. I got this was recorded with a Sennheiser E906 microphone through a Bogner cabinet, which has a Celestion Classic 80 speaker, 2 Rock Emerald Pro amplifier. Mostly on the clean channel, except for that stuff I did at the end, going directly into a Rosetta 800 into a Pacifica preamp, a design specific preamp, and no effects, no other anything, going right into the board because I just want you to hear these pedals, and that's about it. So comment is really important because there's a lot of back and forth and people always asking questions on certain videos, and that dialogue is sometimes as helpful as the video itself. Other people try different settings or tried other options, and they comment, and it's useful for all of us, the whole community of players. Comment, obviously subscribe, and because and then do whatever you have to do. There's a certain thing that you have to check off, I think, to say that you want to be notified because you want to be notified the next time there's a video there. And if you want to check out some of my own music for free, yes, free. Just go to davefreesong.com. That's easy to remember. Just do it right now. You're in front of your computer anyway. davefreesong.com, and you can download. We'll email you 3 free tunes off of a couple, two off one album, one off the other album. And cool stuff. You get to hear me using different effects. The two rocks all over that album with different effects. And if you have questions, and once you hear the music and you have a certain sound that you dig, you feel free to make a comment or email me and ask, hey, what sound what pedal did you use to get that, that phaser sound or whatever on that record, or what delay pedal or whatever. And if I remember, I'll say. So, again, shout out to Thurland James, who made the cool guitar, and have like, subscribe, and have a great time. Rock and roll, baby.